Hey everybody, I'm Jason Mefford and I'm here with Brad Miller and we are walking a spiritual path with you today. So we're on the path, we're walking along with you, sharing experiences that we're having, and hoping that you'll share some of those experiences with us as well. And so, when we decide to come up with these episodes, how we do it is we just tune in to the inspiration that we're given on what it feels like we're supposed to talk about today. So, no notes or anything like that. It's usually synchronistic events and other things that kind of come along. Sometimes it's a card that Brad may pull in the morning or an encounter that one of us has. And so today is no different than most of those episodes. We don't know exactly yet what we're supposed to talk about, but we'll give you a little clue on it, right? Is Brad pulled a card this morning,
Mhm.
and so we'll have him. He'll share kind of what that is here in just a minute, and then I was in meetings this morning, went and had breakfast, went out on my porch for a little break, made myself some coffee, and as I was walking back down the hall into my office, I got a couple of sayings like ask Brad about something he mentioned yesterday, because Brad and I had talked yesterday and some other things. So I was supposed to ask him a question. And then I also got out of the closet was kind of a phrase that came to me. So that was kind of what came from my side. So Brad, you want to share
Mhm.
kind of the card that you pulled because I think there's a tie in here on what we want to talk about and what something both of us are working on and maybe being made more aware that we need to place more attention
Mhm.
on certain things in both of our lives.
Yeah. So today's card, for those of you who are watching this on YouTube, you can actually see the card I'm holding up here. But the card is Many Masks, the Authentic Self. And the description for the card goes into the idea that we're all wearing masks of some sort. And I think probably we all kind of get that there's a mask that we put on. Maybe it's the way that we act out in public, for our jobs, the way we want other people to see us. Um, but depending on our circumstances, maybe we a slightly different mask. But at the end of the day, we've got something kind of in front of our face, something that's kind of um, what the people around us see, the way that we approach the world. And it's not that it's necessarily a bad thing that we have these masks. I mean, that's part of our reality. That's part of how we face the world. Um, but the mask that we put on, the mask that's seen by others, that's not who we really are deep down. That's not our authentic self. That's not who our soul energy or whatever is. And so the description here kind of suggests of going and playing around a little bit, taking off that mask, putting a different one on, trying some things out, seeing how it fits, being curious, being fluid, all in an effort to get better know who you are. I mean, because I know we talked about, talk about you put a mask on with the way you interact with others. Or maybe at work, if you're a lawyer or an accountant, there's a certain way that you feel or that the profession kind of assumes that you will be. And so you kind of put on a certain mask of how you appear in front of that. But I think there's also a mask that you put on yourself when it comes to how you see things, how what you think of yourself, your self ideals, your self concept. I think there's a mask there as well, because most of us don't know who we really are. We know what maybe others have said about us. Maybe we know some things that we've seen in the mirror, maybe things that we want to believe about ourselves, or things that we have learned through our indoctrination, through growing up, through society, our parents, friends, colleagues, or whatnot. but none of those are actually who we really are. And part of the path, I think, is to figure out who that is, who we really are at the end of the day. And, maybe we can't actually take the mask completely off and go naked, if you will, but can we maybe through choosing different masks, through trying different things on, maybe get a better idea of who is under that mask
Mhm.
by how we come through in each different situation.
Yeah, and I think it's, because we talked, I think, before about one of the codes of conduct of knowing thyself, right? And actually, remembering who we really are, embracing our
Mhm.
higher self, living from that standpoint, being aligned with our higher self as well. But yet we live in a 3D world, right?
Mhm.
And so, or as Madonna would say, we're living in a material world, right?
Mhm.
Little music humor for you. But I think it's interesting, and I'll even share just a little, and it might not seem like it relates, but I think it does, in that uh, as we're trying to figure out who we really are, one of the ways that's helped me is to think about what I was like when I was a little child and what I was like as a teenager, because we usually change from those standpoints. And so I'll give you an example, and some of it is maybe a little, uh, well, I'm just going to explain it. Here we go. Uh, when I was a little kid, I went to kindergarten, like most kids do. Only my parents sent me to like a special kindergarten. It was kind of like a gifted and talented kind of a sort of thing. It wasn't through the regular school system. Because I was a weird kid, there were some things that were going on with me, and they had to, at one point, I went to a psychiatrist as a little kid, right? Because my parents were having behavioral issues with me, and the psychiatrist, went through, did all the assessments, and said, "Well, there's nothing wrong with your son. The only problem is you're treating him like he's 5." And they're like, "Well, he is 5." He's like, "I know, but start treating him like he's 9 or 10 and see what happens." And so they just started treating me like I was older than my physical age, and a lot of, I guess, the behavioral things went away, right? And so I was always a weird little kid, in a lot of ways, very shy. But when I went to kindergarten, I wore a white shirt and tie to kindergarten every day. That's weird. Most people would think that's weird, right? So why
Was
did
that
I
by
do that?
choice or was that by,
It was
yeah,
by choice. It was what I chose to wear. There was no uniform requirement or anything like that, but
your
I
parents didn't like
chose.
send it out and say, here's your shirt and tie for the day?
No,
No.
no, no. I
Hmm.
would just choose that. And as I got older, one of my sisters told me, I think I made some comment like, "Yeah, I get dressed up to impress the ladies," or something like that. I made some quip like that, I guess, when I was a little kid. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. I don't know. But the reason why I think I did that was in a way to try to emulate my dad, because we would go to church on Sundays. He would wear a white shirt and tie and suit to church, right?
Hmm.
And even though he was a contractor, he was general contractor, but he also, would put on the framing belt, and we'd frame and finish houses as well. So he did work too. Even then, what he would do is he would wear white button-down shirts to work, no tie, but he would
Hmm.
wear white button-down shirts, and his reasoning was, that it doesn't pick up as much heat from the sun. They're cool. When my church white shirts are getting a little ratty, then I just start wearing them for work, right? And so I probably did that as a way to kind of emulate my dad, is what I'm kind of gathering, right? But when I went to grade school, I didn't wear a white shirt and tie anymore. I was in public school. I kind of dressed like everybody else as much as I could because we didn't have any money. So I got the Rustler jeans instead of the Levi's, and things like that. So I tried to fit in as much as I could being a poor kid. And there's a whole thing around that too, right? But so where am I getting at with this, right? Well, as a teenager, and little kid past that time, I didn't wear those things. I wore t-shirts. I loved wearing t-shirts. In fact, I really kind of started creating a whole like t-shirt collection when I was a teenager. I was more comfortable in t-shirts, and that's what I just wore. And but yet then again, I go off on a Mormon mission. What do I wear every day? A suit and a white shirt and tie, right?
Shirt tie.
I come home, I go to church every Sunday. What do I wear? A white shirt and tie, right? I get a professional job. And when I started many years ago
Hmm.
as as a speaker, right? And it wasn't but it was more, I think, from the mask I thought other people needed to see me wear for
Hmm.
me to be successful in business, for
Yep.
them to actually hire me. But I'm not a suit and tie guy. I'm a blue collar, down to earth, t-shirt wearing kind of guy, right? But even as I, kind of threw away, or I didn't throw them away. I still have a whole bunch of really nice ties and suits that even still I haven't worn in 10 years. I just couldn't bring myself to get rid of them. They're still in the guest closet, right?
Yep.
But that's not really who I am. And I went from, taking the tie off, taking the jacket off, to still wearing a button-down shirt, still nice shirts, colorful shirts, to now you pretty much see me in a black t-shirt every day. And so that has been, a gradual evolution of me remembering more what I'm really comfortable with. And I'm
Hmm.
sure some people may look at me and are like, you look like a bum. You're in a sweatshirt and t-shirt. Why should I, pay you lots of money to help me with whatever, training or speaking or whatever? And it's like, well, if you're looking at my clothes and you don't see who I am, and you don't see, what I know or the value that I provide, if you can't see past my clothes, I don't want to work with you anyway,
Hmm.
right? Because if people are going to be that superficial on who they decide to hire or not hire, they're probably not right for me. So again, how does this all tie back into our spirituality? Well, because just like the physical clothes that we wear, I think sometimes we're often pretty guarded in what we choose to say or not say because of what we're afraid from a judgment perspective, from an acceptance perspective, that other people will think of us if they find out who we really are and what we really think.
Hmm.
I know this is especially true, like you said, in the professional world, and the mask that we try to put on for the public versus
Hmm.
maybe even the face we put on for our family versus, who we really are, and
Hmm.
could be in some serious cognitive dissonance if what we believe and who we really are isn't any of the masks that we're showing anybody outside of our bedroom. It's like the old Nacho Libre movie, where the little kid walks by Nacho's room and he's in there putting on the luchadora. He thinks the door's closed or whatever, and this little kid's just sitting there looking at him because here he is. He's a monk, and he's wearing stretchy pants, and he looks at the kid and he's like, Chacho, when you are a man, sometimes you will wear stretchy pants in your bedroom while you are alone because it is fun. Right. So, sometimes we get found out, or, when people kind of notice stuff that we think they're not looking at, but, is that how we want to do it, or do we want to do it more proactively? You know?
Yeah. Yeah. I think, yeah. I mean, I had something similar with the law, with wearing the shirts and ties and things. And I remember, um, in law school, I worked in the legal clinic in the law school. And so I had, you know, people coming in, I'd interview, I'd talk with clients, I would go to maybe court and things. And so I remember my third year of law school, my last year of law school, a lot of times I would be going to class in a shirt and tie, and I had a suit on, or when I had a basically work as a clerk for a law firm, I kind of expected to kind of dress the part, like, professional dress, whatever you want to call it. And so, would wear a shirt and tie, but I didn't, I went right from class to working. So I would just wear it during the day. So I remember sitting in class in a shirt and tie and suit while there's other people wearing t-shirts and different things. And I'm kind of all, and never really 100% felt comfortable. And I don't, at the time, I don't, it wasn't something that I was really conscious of, that fact that I wasn't necessarily comfortable doing it. It's only kind of later on now that I'm looking back and saying, I wasn't really comfortable sitting there and wearing that stuff. In class and even as extended when I started to practice. I thought, oh, I'm a lawyer now, so I need to look like a lawyer, which means I need to wear a suit and a shirt and tie, and there's this whole, thing of what a lawyer is supposed to look like. At least in my head there was, and so I kind of had to put on that appearance, that mask of what I thought people expected, what I thought a lawyer was supposed to look like, and it was the shirt, the tie, the suit. And again, if you went to court, okay, that was kind of what you were expected to wear in court. And if you didn't have a jacket on or a tie, you may be politely asked to leave the courtroom. So I mean, that was kind of a necessity then. But even the days that I didn't have clients or I didn't have court coming in, I oftentimes would still wear the shirt and tie, just sit at a desk or something. And um, kind of looking back at it now, obviously, I'm wearing a t-shirt as well. And you talked about kind of what's comfortable. Um, I like you, I've got a closet of suits that I wore when I practiced. I think I've worn a suit once since the pandemic. Um, and most of the time, if I do get dressed up, maybe I'll wear a polo and kind of dress slacks, or maybe I'll just wear like one of the dress shirts, and I'll wear some nice pants with it. But I don't go the whole suit. I don't wear the tie. I'm not worn the full get up for years now. Um, and so that was for me similarly a way to start figuring out, hey, that who am I really comfortable being? Who is it inside? It's not necessarily this appearance of what people quote as quote unquote professional or like a lawyer, um, and kind of getting more comfortable. But even for me, it's still a work in progress. Like there's still I'm there's more awareness now on what is comfortable, what I feel good with, and I'm less concerned about others. But deep down, I'm still not exactly sure who I am, what is me, what is the real me. Because, like I said, I think we all have these masks on, and we even wear it when you're in your own bedroom, putting on your stretchy pants. You're still wearing a mask of some sort, right? I think that's just maybe how
Yeah.
you present to the world, to the 3D world that you're in. But and we've talked about this before, but the 3D meat-based suit that you're wearing is not who you really are. And so I guess one of the things that I am working on to kind of tie this back together is figuring out who is that light being inside that meat suit. What is that thing, that soul, that whatever that's inside that, not the guy that's sitting here, wearing a t-shirt and glasses and, sitting in this office, but what is the real deep down person?
Mhm. Yeah, and I think, like you said with that card about trying on new things, taking off the mask and trying on new things. I think even some of the 3D things are ways for us, the way we dress, the way we talk, some of these things are ways to kind of try on some different things.
Sure.
Or to maybe answer questions differently, right? So as an example, there's been a few learnings that I've had the last couple of months where, usually if people would say, "Do you mind if I do this?" And I would say, "No, of course not." Right. I would,
Right.
I would,
Just kind of
I would let,
polite.
defer to other people, try to be polite. But,
Hmm.
it got to a point to where, there's certain things where people would bump in front of me in line or just reach in front of me at the grocery store, without sometimes asking, sometimes not, to where now I'm playing with when people ask me, "Do you mind?" I just say, "Yes, I do. Yeah, I do mind," and see how they react. And, one of the times when I did this, you should have seen the energy fly from this woman towards me. And it was like, block, screw you. I do mind. I do mind that you expect me to get out of the way and you think you're better than me and can just jump in front of me and doing this. No, I do mind. I'm going to stand my ground because
Hmm.
that's who I am, right? I mean, deep down, I'm a king. I'm a whole bunch of different things. And you know what? That's not how other people treat kings. So why would I allow people, as I'm remembering who I am, why would I defer and allow people to mistreat me when in the old days, had they done that, the sword would have come out and that would have been it, right? I wouldn't have put up with it in previous lives. Why am I putting up with it now? Right. So some of that is starting to kind of play into who you are and remembering who you are and
Hmm.
starting to act like your higher self really would, not like who we think this, oh, poor me, little Jason sort of
Hmm.
thing. Right. And I think too, a lot of the stuff, because that out of the closet,
Hmm.
term that I got hit, and that's a term that a lot of people in the gay community use, as far as because again, it's like a lot of people who non-cisgender, heterosexual, whatever the new terms is, right? That again, maybe a gay or a lesbian uh person, coming out or trying to explain to other people that that's who they are, right?
Hmm.
That's who they are because for a lot of people it's still not acceptable to be that way or to feel that way, and so there's often a lot of pressure and guilt and hiding behind who they actually are. I mean, to the point that certain gay men will actually get married and have children as a front, but yet they're still engaging in gay relationship affairs and other things on the side, until they get to the point to where they have the courage to actually admit who they really are. And I think sometimes, the things that we wear, the things that we choose to do or not do, often kind of give ourselves away. And sometimes there's nothing we can do to hide it. When I was a Mormon missionary, there was a uniform. Everybody who's seen a Mormon missionary knows exactly what they look like. Dark suit, maybe if it's hot, they don't have their jacket on, but they got a little name tag and a white shirt and tie. And that's a Mormon missionary. Short haircut, 19 to 21 years old. You can spot them coming a mile away. So, that was who I was for part of my life, and it was pretty apparent that everybody could see that was who I was. I couldn't hide it, right?
Hmm.
At that point, but I wasn't trying to hide it either, right?
Hmm.
But then there were other times in my life as I was, changing my belief structure, leaving the church, not believing some of the things, right? But, at times, when people would offer me a drink and I would say no, no, thank you. The first quip back usually was, "What? Are you Mormon or something?" And for a while, the answer was, "Well, yes, I am." And they're like, "Oh, okay, right." And then, I stopped being, I drank alcohol, and now if people offer me a drink, what do I say? No, thank you, because it's not because I'm Mormon. But just because at this point in my life, I'm not drinking alcohol, I might again, right? But it has nothing to do with maybe that label or mask or whatever I was wearing. And again, when I was wearing the shirt and tie as a Mormon missionary, in a way, I was wearing a mask, but it was a mask I thought I believed in. Where now, right, it's different.
Mhm.
And I think it's often pretty scary for us to actually let people know who we really are, who our authentic self really is, because one of the things that we're all afraid of is not being accepted.
Mhm. Yeah, that's one of the biggest fears of being ostracized, of being kicked
Yep.
out of the tribe, of
Yep.
the cave saying, "Hey, you know what? You're no longer part of the group. You need to go face the saber-tooth tigers by yourself. Like you're not part of
Hmm.
us anymore."
Hmm.
And so it all kind of goes back to how do we fit in? And if we don't fit in, that there's a lot of biological fear that's still built into us that evolutionarily we still carry from that day, which I mean, there's a lot of those fears that kind of are evolutionary that maybe no longer serve us, but um, are still baked into our brains when our brain's trying to protect us. And so it thinks that hey, if there's a risk that we could potentially be kicked out of the group, no longer be part of something, we got to be careful because that could be dangerous. And that kind of goes to the whole hiding. If we want to not look too different from everybody else, because if we're too different, then maybe we won't fit in, and people will realize that hey, they're not really one of us.
Hmm.
They need to go. And so I think that's the issue with coming out of the closet you talked about, with based on sexuality. It's one of the reasons why I think, uh, as a professional, as a young professional, I felt the need to dress a certain way. That I felt that I had to conform to this kind of standard of what does a lawyer look like or what is professional, because I was afraid that if I didn't, that people would say, well, he's not really a lawyer, or we don't want to have anything to do with him. We don't want to hire him because he looks like some bum down the street.
Hmm.
And so there was that fear. And I mean, and most, I'd say probably 90% of what we do, decisions we make, a lot of it, there's a fear basis behind it. Something we're afraid of, um, that kind of is the base for guiding one way or the other. And that's why we hide ourselves, I think, is that fear.
Yeah, and I think it's, I actually have an affinity that to that out of the closet phrase, not because I'm gay or came out of the closet that way, but when I left religion, to me, I mean, again, I don't know what it's like to be gay and have that, but the friends that I know and the things that they've gone through and the things that they've expressed to me as far as, some of the pressure and the guilt and
Mhm.
everything that kind of goes along with it and how they waited for years and were just, at odds with themselves, feeling like they're living a lie. Well, I had the same feeling with religion, right? And the problem was too is that I knew, it's when when you come out that you are going to be kicked out of the group, you just know it. It's maybe even a little harder, right? Like, for people that come out and know that their parents are not going to support them if they're gay, it's harder than if, they say something and the parents are like, "Oh, well, we knew all the time. We love you anyway." We, sort of a thing, right? Versus,
Mhm.
"Okay, out of my house. I never want to see you again." And it was that way with me because again, I went for years not believing, but continuing to put on the mask and do what was expected of me because I didn't want to let other people down, and whatever, right? And so, and I knew that when I came out in a way, I was pretty much going to lose all my friends, and a lot of my family would not even understand. And so I had to be willing to just walk away from pretty much my whole life and my
Mhm.
marriage at the time, right? For having the courage to say what I no longer believed in and what I no longer wanted to live. And I know for a lot of people that's hard. And that's one of the reasons why we're talking about it today, because some of you listening
Hmm.
may be feeling this way. It's like, that you're a different person. You want to live a different way, that you don't believe the mask you're putting on, but you don't know where to go. And you're afraid that you're going to get kicked out and everything's going to fall apart in your life. It may or it may not. I mean, Brad and I know lots of people that are on this path, and for some people, it does mean, divorce, losing family, losing friends. Other people, it's like, oh, well, I already kind of knew that, and that's cool, right? There's no problem with you being that way, right? And so I think it's, sometimes it's what we say, what we may actually wear or do, and it's not, again, they're just signs, right? It's like, I mean, if most people looked at me, they may not even notice anything. But depending on what I happen to be wearing, and because I do wear a lot of jewelry and other things that I can't hide, right? And I shouldn't want to hide it. And so people
Hmm.
that know and know something about it know something about me, right?
Hmm.
By looking at me. It's not necessarily the way I dress, but it's what I'm wearing in addition to my clothing. And they might know, oh, I know what that is. So I know something about Jason now, right?
Hmm.
Where other people, may or may not, right? But there kind of comes a point in our life where we just have to make a decision because it was easy. Again, it was easy enough for me to hide some of that stuff. Now there's no way I can hide it anymore. You know,
I mean, you'd
it,
have bracelets halfway down your arm,
I've
so it
got,
does make it a
I
little.
get bracelets halfway down my arm and other stuff that I wear, and it's like, and there's reasons for it, and I do it because of who I am and who I'm remembering that I am, and there's different reasons, why I wear some of the stuff, but it's also, who I am and who I'm, you know, endeavoring to be every single day. That hopefully it's not, again, what I'm wearing, but how I'm being, that people are going to know that I'm a little different. And so when I say things, like blessings to you or love and light and different things like that, most of the time people don't even respond to it. But I'll give you an example because this happened in one of our local grocery stores. There's a new checker that started working there. And so we had him last week or the week before. Very nice experience, great energy. I could tell he was wearing certain jewelry and I kind of knew what it was or the symbolism behind it and some things like that. I was noticing it. And as we were leaving, he said something to me about my bracelets. And so I was like, thank you, sort of thing. So he was recognizing as well, right? And we laughed, and my partner and I are kind of talking about, the experience. And it's like, he had really good energy. It felt really good to be with him. He's all right. Some of the
Mhm.
checkers we've had are like, "Woo," and then we're like, and did you notice his name? Emmanuel, God with us, right? Is what his name means. So we had that experience. And then, last night we went again. We saw he was on the front on one of the registers. So we made sure and got in his line. And it was the same thing, a great experience. And in fact, as we were leaving, he actually gave us the namaste sign.
Mhm.
And we said namaste back and blessings to you, to him as well. And, again, it's kind of a wink and a nod of, I know he's on a path as well. And he's not afraid to show it a little bit, but he's also not like a Jesus freak that's in your face trying to get you to believe. There's a difference, right?
Yeah.
Or, again, here in Sedona, we see all kinds of weirdos, and again, that's a judgment, so I apologize for that. But what I mean by that is people that kind of dress in a certain way or try to act a certain way, but the energy doesn't, it's like they're putting on a mask, trying to pretend to be spiritual when you can look at them and know that their vibration is so low that they're just pretending. For what purpose? I don't know. I don't want to know.
Hmm.
Right? I mean, to the point that, I mean, there's one guy that shows up every so often that wears this metal pyramid on his head. Great. There's reasons pyramids are wonderful from a meditation standpoint, from an energy, everything else. But then you look at him and it's crowded in there. If you've ever watched Ghostbusters, right? So he is not who he appears to be and is
It's a
crowded in
mask.
there. It's a mask and more than a mask even, right? And so, again, it's just like you can't judge a book by its cover, but you can learn a little bit about the cover, right? And so,
From the
again,
cover.
for
Yeah.
from the cover. And so again, but from all of us, it's like, are you hiding everything? Because there's certain ways that we can kind of let a few people know a little bit, and if it resonates with them, they're going to ask us more, right? And so it's just
Mhm.
like this podcast. We're up to 90 some episodes or something, right? And at
Yep.
first, when we decided we are going to do it, it's like, what do we call it? Walking a spiritual path. And I'm sure both Brad and I kind of cringed a little bit when that felt like what we were supposed to call it, because it's like, damn, we're coming out of the closet. Everybody's going to know that we're spiritual now because we're associated with a podcast called Spiritual Walking Your Spiritual
Yeah.
Path, right? Um, but that's just what it is, right? And so again, if people look at it and judge us because this happens to be one of the topics, of the three different podcasts that I do, and one of them is directly, spiritual focused. If people are going to hold that against me, then I guess they're going to hold it against me. But I have to show up of who I am and not try to hide it anymore. And I'm working on it, but I can always do more as well without trying to freak people out in a way, right?
Yeah. Well, I think that's one of the tough parts is how do you balance that? How do you balance showing a bit of who you really are, showing those parts of you without, to use your words, freaking people out, to turn off. And maybe the answer is it doesn't matter. You do what you do, and the people who are drawn to your energy and drawn to who you actually are will come, and those that you don't want to be around anyway will be repelled, and it takes care of itself. Um, and maybe under that circumstance, that it doesn't really matter what, or there's no reason to try to hide anything because if anything, you are possibly giving a false impression to people, much like wearing the uh the pyramid on the head, a false impression of who you are, that people who maybe aren't as tuned in, or maybe are more drawn to just the looks, the visuals, might say, oh, well, that person is a, such and such, and it may not match up. And so by putting that on, or, trying to hide some of these things about who you really are, you're actually causing people who really don't align with you maybe to hang around a little bit more. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, because you're
so
encouraging people to be in your energy field that you really probably don't want there
right.
because you're pretending, right, and giving off something else. And so, yeah, I think and it just depends on how quickly you want to get there. You want to rip the band-aid off, or you want to do it a little bit at a time. that's up to you. And again, I mean, in my life, it has taken me sometimes years to get up the courage and the strength to actually rip the band-aid off, right? Sometimes people
Yep.
are like, and that's one thing about me, when I decide, I go and it's done. Boom, right? Because even when I was moving here, right, a lot of my
Mhm.
friends didn't even know that I was moving, and I was talking to them on uh it was either a Wednesday or Thursday of a week, and something came up that I'm moving to Sedona, and they're like, "When?" I'm like, "Friday." They're like, "What? We didn't even know you were moving. How did you do all?" Yeah, I'm going to
Mhm.
be there Friday, you know. But it often takes me longer time to decide. But when I decide, I rip the Band-Aid off and I go. That's who I am,
Yep.
right? So I have to warn people that I'm in relationships with too, because I'm like, if you ask me to do something, make sure you really want me to
Mean it.
do it, and you must
Mhm.
mean it, because chances are it's going to be done before you can come back and go, oh, well, I really didn't mean it. Sorry, too
Too
late.
late now.
Too late
Yeah.
now, right? Um, but I think and obviously the two of us are putting ourselves out here a little bit. So if you're listening to this, you know that we're not going to laugh at you. We understand kind of what it's like too. But I think you can just leave some little clues, because again, it's like I used to try to hide all my bracelets. I'd wear long sleeves everywhere. And after a while, it's like, it's hot. Why am I
It's a lot of
doing this?
work to do that. Yeah.
It's a lot of work to try to do this and to not have anybody see him at any time, and it's like, if people see him, fine. If they know what they are, fine. If they talk about them, fine. Right? It doesn't matter. And
Mhm.
and those other people that know, it allows them. It's almost like you remember those. What was it called? The neighborhood safety thing that was. It was when my kids were little. I can't even remember what it was called, but it was effectively like a group where if kids were out on the street, let's say playing, and there was stranger danger or something and they couldn't make it back home, there were like these signs that people would put in their windows, like, this is a safe place for
Yeah.
kids, so that they would know if they were in trouble, they could run and knock on the door. Somebody's going to let them in and protect them from whatever danger might be out there. If somebody's trying to, you know, stranger danger, hey kid, you want some candy? Get in my car, sort of thing.
Mhm.
Um, and it's, in a way, putting a few things out there, for people to kind of notice without it being over the top, is kind
Mhm.
of like putting a sign in the windows, so that if other people are like, oh, hey, there's some of my people, right? It's the same
Mhm.
thing like when the I call them bums, but in the Depression, they used to put marks on people's fences
The
and
doors. Yeah, the door
doors,
frames.
so that other people in their community knew, hey, these are good people. They help me, they fed me, they're nice
Yep, you get
people.
food at this place,
You
you
get
get
yeah,
shelter. This, yeah.
yeah. This one, don't even knock on the door because you're going to get buckshot, shot at you, things like that. That it's a way of
Mhm.
that, and even if you think about or look at some other people, I mean, people who wear a cross as jewelry, maybe they wear a cross necklace and it's outside or inside. Again, you can kind of tell there's a reason why people wear that.
Mhm.
They're most likely Christian. And again, the energy that you feel off of them, it's not necessarily that they're around flaunting it, not like they're Flava Flav with a big old huge cross or clock on themselves, right? But if it's just a simple piece of jewelry, people kind of know. And it's the same thing. It's like, that cashier that I was talking about. He has a medallion that was on the outside of his shirt that's Metatron's cube with some other stuff on it. And it's like, okay, I know Metatron's cube. I know what that is. I know what these other things mean. And so again, it's something that he's, choosing to wear on the outside of his clothing, but it helps me to know a little bit more about him, right?
Hmm. Yeah, and I the depression example was, yeah, that came to my mind too. As soon as you were talking about it, I
Oh,
was like,
because
ooh,
I almost didn't share it, and I'm like, okay, but I'm supposed to share this. Why? But you got it too, so it's like, okay, we had to share that.
yep, yep. I was thinking like the hobos and things like that, and those who were, yeah, would put the marks on
Hmm.
the doors and
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
tell what was a safe place, and where you could get different things, hot meals and the shower, or who would let them come in versus make them sit on the porch, that kind of stuff. So, uh,
Well, and it's a again, I don't know why I'm supposed to share this, but here we go, right? My great grandfather was that. In the Depression, I mean, the difference was he had two young boys. His wife and daughter had died, but he pretty much moved around, or Utah and Idaho, trying to do anything and everything he could to make money and support his boys during the Depression. And so he wasn't, maybe I don't know for sure, but maybe he was without a home for certain periods of time, but he lived that life too, right? And my grandparents on the other side of the family, when I asked my grandpa about the book The Grapes of Wrath, because I read it and I loved it and thought it was so great, he's like, I didn't read it, I lived it. I don't need to have it,
there-
right?
right.
So, I have family who kind of lived through that. But what's interesting then is my great grandfather, the rest of his life, he would just bring random people home all the time. And, he got married again. My great grandmother was of that same generation. And it didn't matter when you walked into her house. I never met her because actually my great grandfather and my uh, great grandmother died before I was born.
Mhm.
But the stories that I hear, was that, he would, grandpa, yeah, great grandpa, Mitchell Myron. Okay. He would just bring random people home that were down on their luck, that were hitchhiking, that were doing other stuff. And great grandmother, it didn't matter. She could be washing the dishes from breakfast, right? And somebody walks in the house and she's like, "Oh my goodness, we're about to have lunch. Would you like to have lunch with us?" Right? She was just that kind of person. And my great grandfather would just bring home people like that because he was on the other side.
Yep, he knew it was like.
He knew what it was like, right? And so it's like, why am I sharing? We know what it's like, everybody who's sitting here listening to this. We know whatever it is you're going through. It's okay. Come on. Come out of the woodwork, come out of the closet. It's okay, right? We're going to come out more, as well. But it's having that or feeling safe. It's like having those marks. Brad and I have marks, right? So if you're a hobo spiritualist walking by, okay, Brad and I got marks. We're branded. So come on, right? We're a safe place to come and try to share stuff too. But and I think it behooves anybody who, when we go through experiences like my great grandfather did, that we then are there to help others who do that too. It's the same like in 12-step programs like Alcoholics Anonymous. The people who are the sponsors are the people who went through the process, right? And they're there for each other and they help each other. And it's the same way in the spiritual
Mhm.
community as well.
It's just like coaches. The best coaches tend to be the people who have gone through it themselves.
Hmm.
So, even from sports, the best, coaches to teach you how to shoot a basket are the ones that had to be there and had to work on it and were taking the 1,000 shots every night because they had to go through it. So they can better teach you versus the person who just woke up one morning and nailed every shot they took. Like they're worthless to teach you because they don't know how they did it. Like, it's the same
Or
thing with coaches. Or those of us who've gone through it or are processing it, we understand it. So we can, I think, better help go through, explain to you, help you through it than somebody who, says,
Yeah, and that's why we just get on here and we talk and we try to share about our experiences as much because we don't know everything. But it's the same
I
thing.
know
Like
nothing.
like like to the basketball coach, it's like how many basketball coaches are like, well, I read a book on that and I've seen it, the physical trajectory and I looked at the data analytics and if
Did the
people
math on
hold
it and
hold the ball this way, right? So I'm going to create a whole coaching program now around how to shoot free throws because I did a bunch of research, but I've never picked up a basketball in my life, right? And it may seem crazy to say that, but again, you have to test and be aware because there's a lot of people out there that are teaching spirituality, they're whatever you want to call it, but
selling you stuff about it.
they're telling you stuff about it, but they don't know anything about it because they're not living it and they're not going through it. They read a book and now they're sharing with you, the Hermetic teachings, right?
And
Well, have you
charging you
ever?
500 bucks for their course on it.
Yeah, yeah, but it's like, well, but have you ever actually lived some of those principles? Have you ever actually worked through it? And some have, some may have not, right? But again, it's not, I don't know why I'm saying that, but I am, right? That we're just two
There's
normal
something there, yeah.
guys. We're just two wild and crazy guys, Maybe
That's
that'll
right.
be one of our podcast episodes, but
Living in a van down by the river.
yeah, living in a van down by the river. All right, if you got those references, great. Come on. But anyway, so I think that's what we kind of wanted to talk about today. It was kind of a roundabout, but like I said, some things that I was feeling, some things that Brad was feeling from the card pull, and honestly, everybody, some stuff Brad and I are working on because we're not doing enough ourselves, right? We're working on it, but we're trying to still figure out how to come out of the closet better, how to share
Yeah.
more, how to be more open, how to be more authentic as well. Because that's who we want to be, right? But we also want to
Yeah.
help, again, for any of you that are out there, that you realize there's a safe place to come, right? If you want to.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Little signs in our windows. Safe here.
Little
Yeah.
little sign in our window, little hobo sign on the fence, right? And
Yeah.
again, that just goes back to again what we told you at the beginning. We just talk here based on what we feel inspired. That hobo example is a real life example, right? Again, I got hit with that and I'm like, that seems weird to share in this episode, but okay. Brad got hit at the
It's
same time. We didn't talk about that beforehand.
nope.
No, but we were supposed to talk about it today. I don't know why. Maybe to bring up
Some
the story of
some
my grandfather. I don't know.
somebody that will resonate with someone who's listening that specific that reference that story will resonate with them and they'll have something from that. So that's why.
Well, and if nothing else, too, from a selfish perspective, it allowed me a minute or two to place
There you
awareness and
go.
appreciation and love on my great grandfather, who
Gunther.
who I have this deep connection with, even though I never met him in the flesh. Like I said, he
Hmm.
died about a year before I was born. So we crossed paths, and I'm sure we were doing some stuff before I
In
came
ethers,
here.
yeah.
But I've always had an affinity to him. Went out of my way actually to go to his graveside um, as well. But anyway, because I don't know, Grandpa was supposed to think of you today too. So there we go. Um,
Again,
but-
just another example of what we're talking about here.
yep.
You just kind of
So
take the things where it goes.
yeah, and how does any of this have to do with spirituality? I don't know. If you can't figure out from what we just talked about, then maybe you're in the wrong podcast.
And just with that, we lose all of our listeners. Uh, thanks, Jason.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah,
been
yeah,
fun, 90 couple episodes in, but
yeah. Kidding, but not
turn
kidding,
off
right?
the turn off the vacancy sign, the open
Mm-hmm.
sign, closed
Mm-hmm.
for business. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So
Different sign in the window, huh? Yeah.
yeah, I don't know at the end of the day what the what was supposed to come out here for you who was listening. There's something in here. Like I said, Jason got some hits on it. I had some been having some thoughts. The cards went right along with that. They all kind of tied in. Um, and something in here needs to be is supposed to be coming out for you if you're listening. Um, so hopefully you're able to find it, to take what it is, to understand it, and then to be able to integrate it
Mhm.
into you. Because I mean that's important too. Is not just catching something and saying, "Oh, that's interesting," but incorporating it into your life somehow, integrating it into your ways of being, your behaviors, your thoughts. Um, like Jason said, we're trying to be examples. I mean, that's kind of I see part of our role here is to be an example for others, that it's okay to come out. It's okay to talk about these topics. It's okay to be a spiritual professional. Or a male who's into spirituality. It's okay. Hopefully that we are examples of that for you. Um, and if not, we'll try to get better at it.
Yeah. And again, I mean, if it helps you have a little bit more courage to do what you feel like you need to do, great, right? And
Mhm.
realize that, we're here. We know what it's like, as well. And that's why we just try to, some listening may be like, oh, well, you're not really teaching me a whole lot. Well, if you've ever really been taught from a spiritual master, they're teaching you all the time, but you don't even realize that you're being taught because
Mhm.
there's no lesson, there's no 5-step video thing that you go through, right? And again, not that we're here to be teachers or anything, we're just here to share our example and what we're experiencing, but
Mhm.
again, we learn when we share, and hopefully again you learn as we share. And as you share with us, we learn from you, right? So
Mhm.
it's that big reciprocity and on how that actually works.
Yep.
So
So, well, with that, we've talked a long time, so I think we need to wrap it up here for today. Um, Thank you guys for coming. We appreciate you tuning in. I know it sounds, something that every podcast they say, at the end, like, "Hey, thanks for tuning in, thanks for listening." But I mean, Jason, I really, really do mean it. We do really appreciate you out there. Um, it gives meaning to what we're doing. We can feel that energy of you listening and the lessons that you get. Um, and know that part of what we're doing here is to be an example. And so if you're able to find some things that we've said and take them and integrate them in your life and help yourself down the path, help yourself grow, evolve, then that's helping us as well. And so for that, we are truly are grateful for you.
mhm. Yeah, and we do wish you again love and light and blessings, because again, I know some people um, just kind of throw those words out there, but I hope as you're sitting there that you can actually feel the love that Brad and I do have for you, even though we may not know who you are in the 3D, and that you feel and are blessed in your life. And we're grateful, like Brad said, for you for listening today. And however we can help, that's why we're here, right? To try to
Mhm.
do it. And I hope you can feel our love and gratitude for you and know that we actually are sincere about it. And it's not just lip service. Because we wouldn't take time away from our businesses to do something like this if we didn't actually believe in it, because we're not making money doing this. So,
Yeah.
yep. So with that, everybody, have a great week, and we will see you on our next episode.
Catch you guys then.